On this Saturday night, more tension over tariffs on Canadian goods, leaving businesses in limbo on whether a deal will be reached.
It's a completely ridiculous economic policy.
The latest on negotiations with no clear path forward.
Who's to say whether what is agreed now will be in agreement for the remainder of his term in office?
Trump orders 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to reposition after threats from a former Russian president. A BC woman regains her sight after a decade of blindness thanks to a procedure using one of her own teeth. And Toronto's Caribbean Carnival parade takes over the streets.
It's a celebration of our freedom.
How thousands are celebrating freedom, culture, and heritage.
Global National, reporting tonight, Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The U.S. president's radical shift in trade policy is reverberating around the world and in the U.S. Canadian businesses are now subject to a 35% tariff on exports not covered in our free trade agreement. Many other nations have an extension until August 7th. But already the U.S. economy is showing signs of stress. Friday's jobs report was much weaker than expected, leading to Donald Trump's knee-jerk firing of the woman in charge of those stats. As Reggie Cecchini reports, politicians on both sides of the aisle think that was the wrong move.
Since the first hours of Donald Trump's second term, concerns from economists about the risks of widespread tariffs have grown into roars.
It's a completely ridiculous economic policy.
Even with some unexpectedly positive GDP figures this week, Friday's weak U.S. jobs numbers delivered a harsh dose of reality.
Why should anybody trust numbers?
The July report showed sharp declines and contained major revisions for May and June, suggesting everyday Americans may already be feeling tariff impacts. It wasn't what Trump wanted to hear, and his reaction was swift, firing the labor statistics commissioner who publishes reports on job data and the economy, claiming without proof the report was rigged to make him look bad.
We need people that we can trust.
Erica McIntyre was just confirmed last year for a 4-year term with overwhelming bipartisan support. Even Republicans are slamming her ouster, which puts another independent agency in jeopardy.
Donald Trump sometimes admires dictators. He sometimes acts just like them. It's classic Donald Trump. When he gets the news he doesn't like, he shoots the messenger.
Disruption is hitting the U.S. Federal Reserve, too. Trump has publicly taken aim at Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates.
But after one of the Fed's governors abruptly resigned Friday, analysts expect a replacement appointed by Trump could put more pressure on Powell.
It may really be giving the Fed the opportunity that it's been looking for to drop rates.
In the run-up to his re-election, Trump vowed to make life more affordable in the U.S. But getting there has driven a wedge between America and its trading partners, including Canada.
Expecting that the tariffs we see now will more or less be the pathway for the next several months until Trump gets another brainstorm.
And Reggie, the U.S. tariffs on most countries don't kick in until August 7th, but Canada's went into effect immediately on Friday. Is there anything more Canada can do here?
Nitu Minister Dominic LeBlanc said in the coming weeks conversations will continue, but there's little clarity on what Canada can do to convince Trump to cut it some slack, considering concessions only moved the goalposts further back. And despite having many of the same concerns with Mexico, that country was given a delay, although details weren't provided. And while some countries did manage to ink a deal before the deadline, whether those agreements will be honored is to be seen, given the president now sees tariffs as both an economic and a foreign policy tool.
If you take a look at the USMCA, obviously that was thrown out the window based on his decision, not Canada or Mexico's decision. So who's to say whether what is agreed now will be in agreement for the remainder of his term in office?
So, Nitu, Ottawa is now in a position of trying to figure out if the price of a deal that can be rewritten is worth it.
All right, Reggie Cecchini in Washington tonight. Thanks, Reggie. President Trump, meanwhile, has ordered 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to be repositioned in response to what he calls foolish threats from Russia's former president. The escalation comes after a week of barbs between Trump and Dmitry Medvedev, who currently serves as the deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council. Vincent McAviney reports on the intensified back and forth as Trump's deadline for a ceasefire in Ukraine looms next week.
Donald Trump vowed to end the war in Ukraine in just 24 hours when he returned to the White House. 7 months on, with no end in sight, Trump's patience with President Vladimir Putin seems exhausted. Trump describing Russia's actions this week as disgusting and threatening more sanctions. It was a former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, who responded. Now serving as deputy chairman of the country's Security Council, he posted, "Each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country." President Trump described those comments as foolish and highly provocative before ordering 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to reposition.
So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
The president did not say where specifically the 2 submarines were being deployed, in keeping with U.S. military protocol, but did clarify they were closer to Russia.
The risk is that the nuclear side may now take on a life of its own if Russia decides to make a similar move and communicate it to say, well, if you're moving your submarines, we are moving ours, is not going to convince Russia to sign or negotiate a peace agreement.
The Kremlin is yet to officially comment, but Moscow's stock market has fallen sharply.
I think it has no chance at all of forcing Putin to the negotiating table over Ukraine. They're puzzled by Trump, but really don't think it's that serious. I mean, he may not have even done it. This is the other thing. I think they're thinking, well, he's said he's moved a couple of submarines, but how do we know?
Today, Ukraine managed successful drone strikes on an oil facility and military supplier deep inside of Russia. Nevertheless, Putin shows no sign of rushing to the negotiating table before his 8th of August ceasefire deadline. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
In Gaza, health officials say at least 18 Palestinians were killed by Israeli fire near aid distribution sites today. Hospitals have reported a surge in gunshot wounds among aid seekers. Gaza's health ministry also reported 7 more people killed, including a child due to malnutrition in the last 24 hours. The UN says more than 850 have died near Gaza Humanitarian Foundation sites since May. Global pressure is mounting on Israel to ease restrictions and reopen land crossings to allow aid through. Chants of "Bring them home" greeted White House envoy Steve Witkoff at Tel Aviv's Hostage Square. Witkoff was surrounded by protesters as security escorted him to meet families of Israeli hostages held in Gaza. The meetings are said to have lasted more than 2 hours.
He talked about what is the objective. The objective are 2 things: ending the war and getting all the 50 hostages out. We feel that Mr. Witkoff is very much with the families. He feels us, he understands us, and he said that he's going back to Washington, where he will share these stories with the president himself.
Witkoff reportedly told families the Trump administration's new objective is a single sweeping agreement to secure the release of every hostage and a full ceasefire. Israeli media also reported Witkoff told families Hamas expressed a willingness to disarm during negotiations, a claim Hamas has rejected. Here at home, Environment Canada is warning of more thunderstorms in BC tonight. The province has already seen 48,000 lightning strikes since Thursday, sparking dozens of new wildfires. 140 of them are burning in the province, including one that's resulted in evacuation orders on Vancouver Island.
Fire conditions throughout the day yesterday proved to be challenging.
Fire officials say gusty winds have been fanning flames toward properties southwest of Qualicum Beach. Evacuation orders are also in place for a fire east of Vancouver near Harrison Lake. And a wildfire near Lytton is among the largest in the province at more than 1,200 hectares. Global News meteorologist Yvonne Schell joins us now with more on what's ahead in BC. Yvonne, what are you expecting?
Thanks so much, Neethu. We're expecting hot and dry conditions and also the risk of thunderstorms once again. No reprieve in the forecast just yet. Our fire danger rating across the province for BC, high and extreme. The areas that we're watching very carefully along the island and right along the Sunshine Coast. So hot, dry conditions and the risk of thunderstorms. So for tomorrow, the forecast, that instability picks up. Thunderstorm risk for the northeastern corner, central, southern half of the province. We could see lightning and we could see breezy conditions near those storms that'll be fanning the flames across the province. A look at our national forecast for the fire danger rating. We're sitting at high to very high for many areas. Now the forecast for tomorrow, we'll start to see some improvements that'll extend in towards the prairie provinces. But through the day today and leading in towards tomorrow, if you're spending time outdoors, some have a long weekend for a few provinces, but the wildfire smoke from the prairies have prompted a special weather statement. We're watching it very closely. Areas in towards North Bay and even extending in towards western Quebec. With the following areas, with the special weather statement, we're looking at poor air quality and reduced visibility. Those with respiratory issues will want to try and limit the amount of time spent outdoors, and the special weather statement will extend and continue in towards tomorrow so far. Neethu?
All right, Global News meteorologist Yvonne Schell, thank you. The long-standing labor dispute between Canada Post and the union representing 55,000 postal workers has hit another snag. The Crown Corporation's so-called final contract offer has been voted down by union members. More than two-thirds of members rejected the proposal. Union leadership had urged them to do so over 2 weeks of voting, aiming to force Canada Post back into bargaining. The offer included a 13% wage hike over 4 years, but it would add more part-time workers, which the union opposed. Canada Post pushed for the vote, which went forward after intervention from Canada's jobs minister. The company says it's evaluating its next steps. Another development in the controversy surrounding U.S. President Trump's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Epstein's former associate, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, has been transferred to a minimum security prison camp. The U.S. Bureau of Prisons confirmed she was moved from a federal prison in Florida to the camp in Texas. The reasons for it were unexplained, but it happened after recent meetings between Maxwell and the Justice Department. Speculation has swirled over whether Trump could pardon Maxwell, who was also set to testify before Congress about the Epstein case later this month. That deposition has been indefinitely postponed. Summer McIntosh at it again. Coming up, the record-breaking Canadian swimmer gains another medal on the water. Plus, an NHL team's frightening encounter with a bear, how they managed to get away safely. A three-way race at the World Swimming Championship came right down to the wire. Canada's Summer McIntosh held the lead with 100 meters to go in the women's 800-meter freestyle, but world record holder Katie Ledecky reeled her in on the final lap. The American captured gold, an Australian finished second, and McIntosh won bronze. It's the 18-year-old's fourth medal of the competition. She has a chance to win another medal in the 400-meter individual medley on Sunday, the final day of competition. An off-season promo shoot in Alaska for an NHL player and a team mascot took a frightening turn.
Got a bear. Oh, I gotta break you off now. Okay. Hey Sam, we got a bear. We gotta move down.
Seattle Kraken forward John Hayden, the team's mascot, and the film crew had to flee when a bear wandered into the river at Katmai National Park. At one point, the bear even charged at the mascot.
I want to blame it on Bowie. They were pretty interested in his whole look, so we got out of it okay, but it was a close call.
Experts say bears will sometimes do bluff charges, trying to scare a threat away before stopping at the last second. In this case, it worked. Everyone fled for safer ground and no one was hurt. Ahead, how one woman's eyesight was restored through her pearly whites. Hundreds of thousands of young Catholics cheering on Pope Leo as he appears for the Jubilee of Youth in Rome, the largest gathering of his tenure yet. Up to 1 million young people from 146 countries are taking part in the weekend celebrations, capping off a week-long pilgrimage to energize Catholic youth. A Victoria, BC woman can see again more than a decade after going blind from a rare immune disorder. Gail Lane lost her vision suddenly due to Stevens-Johnson syndrome, a rare skin disorder often triggered by infections or reactions to medication. She's now regaining her sight thanks to a groundbreaking surgery that uses one of her own teeth. Kylie Stanton breaks down the unique procedure doctors hope could help others across the country.
I'm a bit anxious, but excited.
With Canadian medical history on the line, all eyes are on the patient. This one may have lost her vision, but not her hope.
It was so sudden. It was like an overnight thing for me. It didn't really sink in that I wasn't going to be able to see.
Gail Lane suffered a seizure a decade ago. While in hospital, the medications she took triggered a reaction that resulted in a rare autoimmune disorder known as Stevens-Johnson syndrome, leaving her completely blind.
It was sad. I thought about all the things I suddenly couldn't see, and would I ever be able to see them again?
But a breakthrough came in the form of a groundbreaking tooth and eye surgery.
All we're trying to do is to restore a clear pathway for light and focusing of light to the back of the eye. And a tooth is an ideal structure.
The team coincidentally took one of Lane's eye teeth, outfitted it with a plastic lens before it was sewn over her eyeball.
It wasn't take off the bandages and, oh my God, I can see. It was gradual.
Come with me. Day by day, her vision continues to improve, and there have been a lot of firsts. Seeing her dog Piper, then her partner Phil, who is also blind.
He still hasn't seen me, and I had never seen him when we met. We were both blind, and he's been blind for a long time.
Wow. But it's the simple things like taking in the view that's now quite literally seen through new eyes.
Beautiful.
It's very, very moving to see them regain their vision and their function after usually such a long time.
Lane is just one of 3 patients to undergo the surgery in Canada, but the hope is to build on the success. Her story, just a glimpse of what lies ahead.
What a feeling to be able to get any amount of sight back. I'm so grateful.
Kylie Stanton, Global News.
Next, the song and dance at a grand parade in Toronto celebrating Caribbean culture. From a strongman competition to Viking battles and traditional music, the town of Gimli, Manitoba is celebrating 150 years of Icelandic roots. Many Icelanders came here in the late 1800s fleeing famine and poor living conditions. The name Gimli means home of the gods in Norse mythology. The first Icelandic festival was held in the province in 1890, making this the second oldest continuous ethnic festival in North America, according to organizers. In Toronto, people dancing and wearing vibrant costumes took to the streets in celebration of Caribbean culture as thousands showed up for the grand parade of the city's 58th annual Caribbean Carnival. Global Toronto's Lexi Benedict is on the ground there for the festivities. Lexi, it seems like a lot of fun down there. How are the celebrations?
Hey, Neetu, you can hear the music pumping through the air, see the dancing, and these bright and bold, beautiful costumes, all part of the joy here at Canada's biggest Caribbean celebration. Toronto's Caribbean Carnival celebrates its 58th year with a grand parade bringing music and movement back to the city.
We're having a blast! We're having a blast!
From dancing to the rhythm, to intricate costumes that tell a story.
So my costume is called The Spirit of the Merry Masquerader. It is also a play on an ingenious designer from Trinidad and Tobago called Peter Mitchell, and he has a costume from many years ago from when I was small called The Merry Monarch.
Everyone here embracing true Caribbean culture.
It's very important because it dates back to my culture and my family and my heritage, so it meant a lot to finally, like I said, come out of my shell and finally step it up and participate in Mass.
So El Dorado is part of Guyana, and I'm a Guyanese, so it's very important for me to be a part of today.
The festivities attracting thousands from across North America.
We came all the way in from North Carolina.
Ontario Premier also in attendance. Officials say it's an important festival to celebrate, with roots tracing back to Caribbean street parades.
What makes this so important and powerful is because it's a celebration of our freedom. We recognize the whole month of August as Emancipation Month.
And is now a key symbol of multiculturalism in Canada.
For just to experience it with your culture, all these people, so much love, like it's a positive thing. It's great. It's awesome.
Everyone should embrace their culture, and everyone should continue to express it, because if it stops here, then the little ones, they're not going to understand what it is. So you got to continue to push it towards them.
And many people here today say this grand parade is just the beginning of a long weekend of celebrations here in Toronto, with thousands taking part. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Lexi Benedict in Toronto. Thanks, Lexi. And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada showcases a lobster trap in Ingonish, Nova Scotia, Pincher Creek, Alberta, and Ontario's Legislative Building in Toronto. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.